Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to this week's Downtown Download. I'm Downtown Partnerships President Shelonda Stokes and always excited to be joined by Councilman Eric Costello. Thank you for joining us today. I want to say this is an exciting time for us. Exactly 1 week ago, we know that Baltimore City Public Schools started their year with virtual learning. And I really want to thank all of the parents out there who've made time to be with us today. We know it's hectic for you right now. Some people are juggling work and school, and we hope that we have a lot of the answers for you today. If you need to hop off the webinar today, please know that we understand. We know that school takes a priority right now, but this episode is being recorded. So you can visit our website at godowntownbaltimore.com to take a look at it later if needed. All of our webinars are archived on our website, so please continue to visit and join. So whether you're at home schooling with your kids right now or just trying to strike that right work-life balance these days, this show is for you. Our two guests today are experts with tools to help keep you sane and successful. I am personally connected to both of them. I think they are fabulous women who not only make a difference in what they're going to talk about today, but in HR and all of those other things that help keep our business growing and thriving. Amy Polefrone is the President and Chief Executive Officer of HR Strategy Group. That's a human resources agency specializing in executive searches, crisis communications, and management consulting. She's a nationally recognized expert on workplace issues with more than 30 years of experience. And joining her today is Donna Miracle. She's the Chief Operating Officer of HR Strategy Group. And Donna has more than 20 years of experience in HR, business consulting, and she's an expert on compliance issues. That's something we'll be talking about today. So I invite you to join the conversation by posing your questions for Amy and Donna, or for the councilman and I in the Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your screen. Please enter your questions there. After we get through some of the standard questions, we'll come back and answer your questions. So we want to make sure that we hear from you directly. First, let me tell you a little bit about what's new and what's happening in downtown. A lot has happened over this past week now that more businesses have been allowed to reopen for customers. So attractions like the American Visionary Arts Museum, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, and the Walters Museum announced reopening dates. The Maryland Historical Society also reopened, and hopefully you saw it's with a brand new name. It's now called the Maryland Center for History and Culture. And Forno, which is an excellent restaurant near both the Hippodrome and Everyman Theater, reopened with a newly renovated patio. San Pablo Street Tacos opened on St. Paul Street. We have Urban Oyster, who found a temporary home for curbside pickup in downtown. And while it looks for a new permanent location, please continue to support them there. And Alma Cucina Latina announced plans to move from the Can Company to the former Pen and Quill space in Station North. So a lot happening and changing there. More parking spots have also been turned into outdoor dining destinations. So you have Mick O'Shea's, Soda Sopra, Hotel Revival, the Brewers Art, Marie Louise Bistro, and Doobies. So all please continue to come out and support. We know that our businesses cannot survive and thrive without your support. And this is a time right now that we need everybody to do their part. So the businesses and the retailers are the backbone of downtown, and they desperately, desperately need your support to get through this coming winter. So stay informed about the reopenings and everything that's happening in the heart of our city on our website, godowntownbaltimore.com. So that's all that I had in the beginning. Those are my updates. Councilman Costello, please let us know if you have anything else that's happening in the city.
Thanks, Shelonda. Donna, Amy, thank you so much for being here with us today. Two quick updates. One, there's been some modifications to the recycling program that was sent out, I believe, last evening. So I'm working to get an update on that. That'll be available on my website at costelloforbaltimore.com. I will share that with Downtown Partnership. In short, the city is expanding the hours and days of some of the sites and changed a couple of sites. Want to make sure that we're doing our very best to get recycling, recognizing that our solid waste staff have some pretty severe limitations due to COVID. The other quick reminder is that we do have an election coming up, so please be sure to, if you are voting by mail, to request your online ballot at your earliest convenience. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Shelonda.
Thank you, Councilman. One more reminder, and I know we'll do it at the end. I know you wanted to talk about this, and our team is really getting engaged and also helping with the census. It's very important that we get these votes counted, and want to make sure that in Baltimore, we get every dollar that we have coming to us. And so, Councilman, I want to make sure that we follow the format today. We have a lot of questions that came in even beforehand, so we know people want to hear from Amy and Donna on what's happening in here. So if you'll start with the formal questions, I want to remind everybody, put your questions in the Q&A box. And after the set of formal questions, we'll come back and answer yours. Councilman, coming back to you.
Thanks, Shelonda. So again, Amy, Donna, thank you so much for being with us today. We know how busy you are and certainly appreciate your time, but we're really excited about this episode. I think this is going to be of great interest to a lot of our audience.
My pleasure.
So Baltimore City Schools resumed with at-home learning a week ago, and I already know that several parents in the district I represent and throughout the city and their kids feel pretty burnt out. Students are spending a long time in front of a screen, and their parents are trying to juggle school and childcare while also having to work from home. In short, it's been incredibly stressful for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
What advice or management techniques do you have that could help parents during this difficult time?
Thanks, Councilman Costello. You're absolutely right. Parents and kids are really feeling the stress of, balancing the school and the work demands. So I think from an employee perspective, what's really important for parents to do is to communicate your own needs and advocate for yourself with your employer, with the organizations you work for. First, start out by talking and communicating with your supervisor how you're going to need to assist your child or children with their learning this year. Some parents, their kids are going to school 1 day a week and then they're home 4 days a week. Some are going 2 or 3 days, some are 5 days. So don't assume that your employer knows your family's schedule and your family's needs. So really making sure, be flexible about your availability to work, and we, those working, we might need to have some extended hours and having a wider view of how we work and when we can work, but make sure that your employer knows what your availability is and how you can help keep the business going. Perhaps create a regular work schedule for yourself that you can share, making the predictability of your schedule known to your employer. And this lets people know when they can reach you, when they can't reach you. I work with one client, and she's a senior manager, and she works between 10 and 2. Her husband works 8 in the morning to 10 a.m. Then she works from 10 to 2, and then she works again from 7 to, I think, 10 at night. So she is getting in her full hours, but she's able to space it out. That's really important that her employer knows, here's when we can reach her. So communicate early and often with your managers and your team members when you're available for meetings and calls and the progress of your projects and your work. Now is the time for relentless team communication. That helps. I think that kind of organization is going to help parents alleviate the work stress that they may be feeling that's coming on them. We parents got used to a different kind of normal in the spring and summer, just when we get used to it. Now school's back in session, so we just have to relentlessly communicate in a way that's fair and productive for the employers and for your coworkers. So that's, I think, a good first start.
I'll also add that it's also really important for both managers and for team members this is a time to be flexible with each other. And, I talk with a lot of my clients who are going through this. They've got employees who are, they're really burning out very quickly, and, reminding everyone that grace is a good thing right now. We're all in this together, even if we don't have children. in school. You know, those of us that can shift things for each other, let's work together to do that. So it's really a team message that managers, as much as you can put that out there, that's going to help everyone in the long run.
So thank you. As my amazing co-host Shelonda knows, I go off script at least once an episode. I promise it's not going to be too much of a curveball, but I'm certainly breaking the record by at least 20 minutes this time. Show, but I have to ask, you know, I've noticed that a lot of the people that I work with, and I at least have seen this in myself, are a lot more productive because of the flexibility. You're seeing with your clients, are they adapting well to this? Even those that have children and have other responsibilities at home, are they more productive, and are their employers more trusting of their ability to get things done on their own time?
I'll take a first stab at this, and generally, yes, we're seeing the positives, which is good because this is our new normal. This is how work is going to continue to evolve. More hybrid working. It's a small percentage of employers who are still taking this hard stance that aren't thriving. And I think it's going to impact their business in the long haul. If an employee can work home, we know some businesses, employees have to be client or customer facing. We understand that. But for those that don't have to be, really, I think the burden's on businesses legally, ethically, morally to really say, why do we need to have this person here all the time? It's, you know, infection control, but it's just the right thing to do for business. Being flexible, as Donna said, giving people grace. I think employers have started to see, like, we don't need to have everyone here all the time. So I think they're starting to wake up and see that we can be more flexible. And I think what I have seen with many, many employees, most, is that they're so grateful for the opportunity that their employers are providing them to be flexible and to work with them, that they're giving it their all and then some, because they know we're in such different times and the strain and stress is so tremendous that if someone can work, you know, chopped up throughout the day, but it's still getting the work done, then that's the beauty of this. So I think we're finally starting to see teleworking options are working more than perhaps we thought they would in the past.
I would agree. I'm seeing that as well with my clients and a number of my executive coaching clients that I'm working with. We're working on the new management style that needs to happen in a remote workforce. You have to be much more intentional about how you manage when you're managing a remote workforce. And so that means more scheduled meetings, more check-ins, more team orientation where things, you know, just kind of happen organically. Remotely, they're not going to. So you need to be more in tune to that. And those clients that are taking those steps are thriving, and their employees are thriving.
Councilman, if I can chime in as well, and I think a live living experience of what's happening with us here at Downtown Partnership. We have both the workforce where some team members are able to stay at home and others are not. I think exactly what Donna and Amy are saying has been really applicable for us here. We have, you know, a base that, you know, we recognize there are some productivity gains in having people in the office, and we're also Downtown Partnership, so we want some people in the office, but we want to make sure that for that piece, we're doing it safely. And so we don't allow any more than 50% of our team members in the building at one point in time. It is not a forced, but a voluntary basis so that team members can figure out when and how to be most collaborative. But for our team members who are frontline and have to be out and working, we're making sure that we're also making accommodations where we can with them. And if we can figure out some ways to do some incentives, because we recognize they have to do that, building that in. And I can tell you from what I'm hearing from the team members, it's really been beneficial for us. And the productivity is good. But I will tell you one caveat, and I'm experiencing this personally, is the meetings are back to back to back. And so you are a lot more productive, but that drive downtime that you used to have, thing in the past, that's no longer normal.
Exactly. Things do start much earlier now.
Looking at a schedule chock full of Zooms today, all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So shifting gears a little bit. So while some daycare options are available, there's certainly nowhere near the childcare capacity we had before the shutdown. I think a lot of this had to do with the executive orders and then limiting care to only essential employees. So this puts working parents in a seemingly impossible position. But there is the relatively new federal statute called the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA, that many people might not be aware of. Can you give us a high-level overview of the Act and discuss the rights and job protections that it provides?
Sure. The FFCRA was enacted March 18th, which, if you think about how quickly that was, that really came about very, very quickly. And what this does is it provides both pay and job protection for employees that work with employers with less than 500 employees, or 500 or less. There is a small caveat that employers with 1 to 49 employees may choose not to participate, but the vast majority of our clients that fall into that group are participating because they are seeing the value both for themselves and for their employees. And what this benefit does is it provides emergency paid sick leave and expanded family medical leave to these employees. There are 5 different reasons why an employee could take emergency or receive emergency paid sick leave. One of them is childcare related. If the child's school is not available to them, meaning they cannot physically go there, even if they are learning from home, and also if a child's childcare center or resource is not available to them, then the employee can take time off to care for their child at 2/3 their rate of pay, up to $200 per day. The emergency paid sick leave portion will allow that for 2 weeks, and then the expanded family medical leave portion will allow it for an additional 10 weeks. And that's very important for a number of our employees, because many of them are finding that, I cannot get in a full 40 hours a week and help my child while they're in school. This is especially the case for very young children. I have a sister-in-law who has twins in 1st grade and then another child in 2nd grade. She works full-time, her husband works full-time, and she is in tears. It's hard, it's tough. And so this allows for employees to receive some pay during this time, so that they can flex their schedule with their employer's approval. This is really one of those key things that employees should be asking their employers about, but also I'm finding that many employers are not as aware of this as maybe they could or should be, but I give them a lot of grace as well, because this all happened very, very quickly. It was enacted on March 18th. It began on April 1st. And I don't know if the rest of you remember this, but that was a pretty hectic time. So this may have slipped through. So it's very important to ask those questions, and to also be mindful that you can request that time be intermittent. So it might be that, I need 3 hours a day to be able to, help my children with this work. The rest of the time we can kind of take care of. And I may not be able to make all of that up, so that this provides that gap for your employees. For managers or for companies, the benefit to this is that it's all reimbursed to the employer through their payroll taxes. So the employer is not paying for that money. They're not paying for that money that's being paid to their employees for this leave, which really makes it a win-win. You still get to keep your employees doing most of their work, and then keeping them whole, but then not, but not having to pay it out yourself. It's very, very important, I think, to, again, as Amy said, this is where communication comes into play. You've got to communicate, what your needs are, and then also, keeping up with your projects and letting everyone else know if you're going to fall behind, or if things are just not going to be as productive as you thought. Just making sure you're keeping everyone on the same page.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Shelonda, I'm going to pass it over to you for a moment.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So part of where we want to shift now is, we know it's called the Family First Response Coronavirus Response Act, but its provisions limited to parents with school-age children or other kinds of protections for, say, people who need to take care of a sick spouse or family member. It's extended, correct?
Absolutely. Now, the first portion, the emergency paid sick leave, would provide pay for an employee to care for someone else other than them. The law is not specific to say that it has to be a family member, though many employees are taking that stance, but they're using it if they have a mother or father, someone else perhaps that lives in their home, or not, but that just needs an elderly family member that needs their help. And again, that would be paid at 2/3 of their salary, up to $200 per day for just the 80 hours, the 2 weeks. And that can be used incrementally, though many employers do require, if the employee would normally be coming into the workplace, if they've been with someone who is exposed, who has COVID, if they've been exposed, then not having them come into the workplace. But if virtual work is available to them, having them continue to do the virtual work intermittently.
Thank you. Just for a point of clarification, because I got a separate question here on dividing the time up, as you mentioned. I think for some people, they thought if a person took that leave, they would have to be off the entire time and then get 2/3 of their pay. So they're out of the office, but they get 2/3 of their pay while they're out. From what you said, it sounds like they can also they can work a few hours and have that applied.
They can if the employer agrees to it. So that is the key to it. The employer does not have to agree to intermittent work or intermittent leave. However, many are. And so it's important to, again, if there's a word for the day, it's communicate. Both on the employee and employer side, it's very key to do that. Again, we are encouraging both employees and employers, be flexible. Let's get through this together. Let's figure out the best way to make this work for everyone.
Thank you so much. Shifting a little bit, let's talk about unemployment, right? We know that it's high and many people are still working. They're concerned that this could be, what's next if the economy continues to stall. In that context, it can be scary for a worker to make demands on their employer, like asking for a flexible schedule or some of those things. What are the employees' rights here, and what can they ask of their employers at this time?
It is, I like what you said, Shelonda, about it's a scary time. And it can be hard for employees to know what their rights are, and even more to the point, how they can ask. But this is, we keep saying communicate and a time for grace. Employees have to communicate with their employers what their needs are and to work together to get through this. We'll get to the other side of this pandemic working together. So let your manager, and if your company has HR, let them know what your needs are. Let them know what you're facing and offer to work with them to develop a plan that's going to work out for everyone. Through these kinds of crucial discussions and crucial conversations, the hope is that we can make this work together. So while it can be scary to ask your manager for a flexible schedule, the downsides to not are then you get stuck in a position or labeled as, oh, you're not cooperative. So let your manager know what you're struggling with and meet expectations. Be proactive on saying, here's when I can work, and again, showing the hours of the day available. So communicate, let them know before things fall apart, before things get ugly, before you miss that deadline. And so really go on the proactive front with it. Then if you are covered by the laws that Donna described, that FFCRA, Families First Coronavirus Response Act, you and the company you work for, you do have those job protections for using emergency family leave. But as the employee, don't expect your employer to know what you're going through. Let them know. So then they will work with you. They'll enter a discussion process with you to work out to accommodate your needs. But you have to let them know. And you have to be approved for that leave too. Don't just think, I've let them know, they know, and then all of a sudden to find out that the leave wasn't approved. So you've got to work with them as much as they're going to work with you. If they're requiring documentation, provide that to them. If they say, well, keep in touch with us once a day or once a week, do that. The employers and the employees, everyone's working with best intentions here. So keep that information flowing. Do all you can as the employee to, again, provide the information, the schedule availability, and the required documentation. That's going to go a long way to helping your employer meet your needs. And really, though, now I'm going to hop on my soapbox and say, employers, we implore you to really beg you, look at business differently than we have in the past. Managers, and train your managers. The managers need to know how they can manage their teams remotely, as well as even for employees that are working with you, perhaps in your store or in your restaurant. And so make sure that employers are trained in these accommodations, that they know what the laws are and how to respond. This is a time for adaptation for both the employees and the employers. Don't be too dogmatic, sometimes, requiring a doctor's note. That's hard for employees to get right now. Doctors are so busy that there may not be time. So this abundance of grace and, working with employees and without, don't be too bureaucratic, but if there's a reasonable business need around it, go ahead and ask. But know that perhaps some documentation may be hard for employees to get right now. So those are some ways that employees can approach the discussions. But for employees, don't assume your employers know what you need, and employers lighten up to the degree where you can of accommodating employees. Time for understanding the challenges employees, especially working parents in many cases, are going through.
I thank you, Amy. Appreciate that tremendously. And like I said, we're living it. I think some of what you sort of transitioned to made me think about the don'ts across the board. As an employer, I think we are struggling with what we can and can't do, even beyond some of the empathetic pieces that you talked about legally, sort of what can you do, what can't you do with theirs. So can you ladies share with us, maybe your top 3, top 5 or so sort of don'ts from an employer perspective and an employee perspective, I think, to keep us all sane and communicating during this time together.
Right.
And can
I'll put on my employee hat.
Okay.
And I'll let Donna put on her employer hat. So, and this is my employee hat is if I'm an HR person begging employees to do these things. So employees, please don't keep your schedule from us. We want to accommodate you. We want you to raise healthy, safe, strong families. But if we don't know the school schedules, we just assume you can be there. So don't under-communicate. Also, don't make demands. Enter into the conversations for employees. Enter into the conversations confidently, but not making demands. We're really figuring this out together, and we'll work with you. But it never goes well when someone comes barging in, and it puts people on the defensive. I'm assuming and hoping, I'm waving my magic wand, we want to do the right all thing together. So, but do it in a way that will make people, flies to honey and all that good stuff. And lastly, my third tip for employees is do not wait when your need is apparent, or maybe even a few weeks ahead of time, over prepare and think, I can see this, you know, school going back into session, or, oh my gosh, I've got a school break coming up. Don't wait to communicate your schedule, your needs, even family vacations. I know some people are taking delayed vacations now. They're finally getting around to summer vacations. Don't wait to have those discussions. Oh, and I'm gonna throw in a fourth one for employees. It's a not to do, but I'm gonna make it a offer to help. Offer to help. And how can I help you? You know, if Donna's my manager, Donna, how can I help you? I know you're busy too with these things. Helping your coworkers out, your managers, maybe a manager's manager. Ask HR, is there anything I can do to help you? This is really, it's this collective, you know, community sense that we're dealing with. So those are some, I think, some good starting points for employees to think about what to do and what not to do. So I'll throw the hat over to Donna.
So Donna, she
Thank
gave
you.
me the harder part. This is the part I'm listening to with both ears open.
Absolutely, absolutely. The first thing that I want to say is for employers, don't default to no. When employees come to you, don't default to no. Listen to them, hear what they have to say, and then really engage with them in conversation and in planning to see what we can do. We all know that not that long ago, it was hard to find good employees. It might be a little bit easier now, but there's still a cost to that. So work with your employees to figure out how can we make this work. The second one, I'm really, and Amy's gonna giggle because this is one of my favorite things, understand and use your resources. It is so key. There are resources that are available to you, things under FFCRA if you're within that size. There are other programs out there. There are, you know, there are organizations like ours that can help you understand what you need to be doing now. And, you know, so use those resources, understand what you need to comply with so that you can make sure that you're doing the best for both your organization and your employees. The third one is really train your managers in the new workforce. We are managing in a different world than has ever been. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that no one has ever managed in a global pandemic before now, right? This is different. There are things that are different. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to learn how to manage in that. So really working with your managers and your teams to understand that we can kind of say goodbye to how things were, at least for the foreseeable future, and what things are now. And the one that I always tell managers is focus on performance. You know, does it really matter that Jane isn't available at 10 o'clock in the morning to talk to you? Maybe, maybe not, but really, is Jane getting the work done? Is she performing at a high level? That's what's really important. So some of those things are kind of, you know, letting go of some of what we might think in today's world is really rather minor. And then the last one is build your teams. As Amy was saying, it is so important that we acknowledge that we're all in this together. Everyone here is experiencing very similar things. So I may not have young school children at home that I need to help, but I may have elderly parents that I need to help. We're all in this together. So be willing to build your teams and spread things around as needed.
Right. Thank you, Donna and Amy. I can tell you that with this virtual living, I think for our team especially, you're getting an intimacy with your team members that you hadn't before. And so communication is absolutely key. I've seen cats' butts. I've seen children streaking through the screen. I witnessed a lot of that. You start to see and experience a lot more than you would in a work environment. So I think all saying is key. And I know you can't overstress communication, but I think from an employer perspective, we have to make it so that people feel comfortable that they're not penalized in the process.
Absolutely, absolutely.
One of the things I know we did in more of a survey way so that we could figure out how we were going to balance some of this was polling our team who had childcare issues, around what time they needed to figure out if there was shifts. And one of the things that you talked about, we started to adopt sort of one team, one DPOB mantra of us trying to figure out how we can help one another. I think when we all came back from COVID, our operations teams, you know, they are responsible for cleaning downtown, and just being off for so long and having to adjust with the schedule, and 1 week on and 1 week off, there was a lot that sort of got behind. And so we're even playing an all team where our administration side is going out to help clean in downtown. We're going to, you know, starting to do things where we can all support one another. So you're absolutely right, in that, and it's working. So this is, we're living the experience right now. Let me shift for 1 minute, because we've been talking a lot about employees and employers, but not really focused on entrepreneurs or anything like that. So for people who own a business, or, you know, in that, right, they can also just manage people. What are their sort of legal obligations under the FFCRA? What should they know legally to help make sure that they're not crossing the line there?
Absolutely. Really, anyone that is in that 1 employee to 500 employees, you have obligations under the under the FFCRA. And it's important to know that even if you are choosing, let's just say that you're maybe 2 or 3 employees, and you know, it's just not something that's going to work for you. There is still an obligation that you submit an application to be approved to not participate. So there is an obligation there, but I do encourage even small employers to consider this for your employees, because again, should something happen that an employee becomes ill or has to care for someone who's ill, this is a great way for you to provide a benefit to your employee that doesn't cost you anything. You're reimbursed right through your payroll taxes. So, it's as quick as the same pay period that you're paying that employee that leave. And it's a very important thing. So the biggest thing, if you're in that 50 to 500 space, then you are obligated to comply. We've given you some links to the Department of Labor's page on the FFCRA. There's a poster there that employees can take a look at if their employer has not already posted it. And there's also great question and answers for employers. And there's a really good outline there. Organizations like ours are helpful, HR consultants. Most of us, Amy and I have been doing webinars on it since, I think our first one might have been March 19th. So we're very familiar. And then your employment attorneys can help you as well. But it is really very important. This is a very beneficial law. And I'll be honest, it's something that happens so rapidly that I think a lot of people didn't really understand it. So there may be still some hanging out there. The other piece I do want to say is that this law sunsets December 31st of 2020. So these paid hours, this paid leave is only available for employees until December 31st. So just kind of keeping that in mind as well. I know a number of school districts are having children going virtually as of right now into January, but for right now, it's just till December 31st.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I could jump in and just add, so many organizations are providing as member resources. This is again for someone who owns the business, chambers of commerce, just membership associations. They're providing so many resources as a member value add. So as Donna always likes to say, use your resources, use the resources available to you to help understand these laws. They seem complex, but, kind of at least kind of immersing yourself sort of in the foundations and then being able to talk to experts that you need beyond that. But lots and lots of organizations, U.S. Small Business Administration, Maryland Chamber of Commerce, these types of organizations are providing resources to help business owners understand legally their obligations to help employees and themselves get through the pandemic.
Thank you so much. And I know we'll be able to share some of the resources to get more. I have a couple questions too that we want to ask. First is, must an employer grant leave to an employee who is sick or who is caring for a family member that is sick? Is it a requirement that an employer grant that leave?
If they are covered by the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, then yes, they must grant that leave. Now, if the employee is sick themselves with COVID-19 or they suspect that they are, that leave is paid at 100% up to $511 per day for up to 80 hours. So that is paid differently at a different rate. If it's to care for someone else, again, it's not just, my mom has a broken hip or, it's COVID specific. Then that would be paid at the 2/3 rate, up to $200 per day for the up to 80 hours.
Okay, thank you. Another one, and this is a little different. Can an employee stay home under FMLA leave to avoid getting COVID?
No, not unless their doctor has given them, a healthcare professional has specifically provided that they cannot come into the workplace. And that would only be for the 80 hours. They could not use EFMLA for that. And FMLA will not apply to that unless they have another health condition that would keep them from being able to provide, perform the essential functions of their job. Now, I will tell you, employers, if these things come about, you can have ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, things coming up. So I would say tread lightly, engage a professional, whether if you have a professional HR department, then, take this to them. Managers, don't handle this on your own. If you don't, bring it to an experienced HR consultant or to your employment attorney.
Sounds good, thank you. So this one is, if an employer temporarily closes his or her place of business because of a pandemic and then chooses to lay off some, but not all employees, are there federal laws that would govern this decision?
It depends on the kind of employer that they are. If they're in manufacturing and the size, there's a lot of there's a whole lot in there that we need to, how big is the employer, how many are being laid off. When an employer is making the decision to go through a layoff, we would absolutely advise the employer to talk with an employment attorney because of the complexities of it and what information would be required for notification for employees. How are the decisions being made to lay people off? That's in the, you're in the realms and in the arms of legal counsel for employers. That would be our.
No, absolutely. Or they need to call HR strategy group.
And we'd say, hold on, let's get an employment attorney. It really would, there's so many legalities that at a minimum you do. Sure, an HR consultant's super, but this is a time when you're dealing with layoffs of kind of an order of magnitude, like what it seems like being described. Yeah. Everyone sleeps better at night knowing it's being handled legally and ethically, in guidance with an employment attorney.
Okay, thank you. This one, little personal, says I was out on FMLA leave unrelated to COVID. While I was out, my company implemented a new policy requiring everyone to take a COVID-19 test before they come to the office. Under the FMLA, can my employer require me to take a COVID-19 test?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The EEOC and the Department of Labor have been very clear that employers may require testing and daily health checks in order for employees to come back to work. So there's nothing, FMLA doesn't trump that. ADA does not trump that. In today's environment, we have to make sure that our workforce is safe before we allow them back to work.
And this would kind of take us back to a question you asked, Shelonda, about what employees should not do, and that would be under the making demands. It's good for the employees who want to have a COVID test as well. Again, making sure that, if I'm the employee, I want to make sure I'm safe to go back into the workplace, and the employer needs to make sure everyone entering the workforce is healthy and safe for work. So it's good business.
Nope, sounds
good public health.
Very good. On the side of the employer, the question here is, what types of policy options do employers have for preventing abuse of leave?
From a policy standpoint, this is one of those questions I struggle with, because you can't policy good work performance.
Right.
You can only coach good work performance. And so, abuses of it, again, it's going to come down to performance. And, if an employee is not available to work, or they're not making themselves available to work, then again, you have to look at, they are going to have some protections under FFCRA if it's applicable to your business. But really, it's going to continue to boil down to performance. So if an employee is working half-time, but they're not really getting half-time work accomplished, or they're not communicating well, or they're not working with their team well, those are performance issues that you would still address even under these conditions. And so, it becomes less about, it can be about the abuse, but really it needs to be about the performance. And that's our best way to manage those expectations, and also then manage the abuse or potential abuse.
I think this gets to the heart and the challenge that managers and employers are facing right now in the midst of the pandemic. Like, well, if I can't see them, how do I know they're working?
Mm-hmm.
And so, so again, it's finding ways to manage. And if you're not keeping your eyes on someone in the office 24/7 either. So how do you know someone's productive in the office? Some of it's trust and, measuring, what's the work objective, and how are you measuring, someone's work performance. So good management and communications between the employee and the manager are just a necessity, because, quantity of relationships, spending time together does help the quality of the relationship, but we just have to have different ways of doing it. There's more Zoom calls in our life now, more phone calls.
Right.
That's our new way of working. So
and I'll throw
you have
in
to
there,
take the tools in a different way.
Yeah, I'll throw in there that being intentional about it, really scheduling that time. Don't expect that, you're going to just talk to someone about, projects and so forth on the fly. Schedule those times. Make sure, follow up. But it's a different way of management, but it's very important to make that part of the new work habit.
Absolutely. This one, I know we've had to introduce this into sort of our policies, but may an employer send employees home if they show symptoms of COVID-19? Can the employees be required to take sick leave? Should they be paid? Many employers prevent employees from coming back to work. So what are the responsibilities there?
They are absolutely able to send an employee home who's exhibiting symptoms of COVID. In fact, every employer should be sending employees home who are exhibiting, even, again, it's difficult because there are many other things. Allergies can have similar symptoms to COVID, but for the safety of employees, this would be, again, a time when the FFCRA leave would apply in those situations. If there's a suspicion that the employee may have COVID, that, if they're requiring them that they have a negative test, then, that time would be eligible to be paid under the FFCRA. If an employer is not, if they're larger and they're not needing to, this isn't available to them, then we do encourage them to provide sick leave, maybe additional sick leave. That is one of the things that Congress really was saying to large employers, is that we're not making this available to you, but we are hoping that you will also make this available to your employees. So, yes, it is absolutely within their right to send the employee home, and we do encourage them to pay them for that time, that they may need to be out until they can receive a negative COVID test.
Which is good.
That's with employers doing temperature checks, in nursing homes, for example, they'll have temperature checks, upon arrival at work, during the day, end of day. So you can institute multiple ways to assess, having a symptom checklist, so it doesn't appear to be arbitrary. We want to avoid managers just saying they seem sick, send them home. Well, what's the symptom checker here? So it's not arbitrary and capricious. So temperature checks, dry cough, things like that. CDC offers a free self-evaluation, self-checker. So, and that's just, available. You can find that. But again, train managers in how to assess what are the symptoms.
No, I think what you're saying too, in the establishing the policies and protocols work, I know one of the things that we're doing here for our team members who come all at the same time, they're getting their temperature taken outside of the building before they come in. For our other team members who come on a shifted schedule, more on the administrative side, we have to actually send a picture of our temperature to HR before we come in. And part of it is so that we keep a log and we can see who are and who's in the building, because all of this also goes back into the contact tracing. So all of this we're able to use, and we're learning daily.
Yeah, absolutely.
For employers on the line, you may want to check with your benefits broker to see if they offer an ancillary service like an app. Some brokers are offering this. So check with your benefits broker to see if there's a health app that employees can put on their phone and can help, with tracking, trend data and things like that. That would be a part of using your resources. So finding out what's available. I know Johns Hopkins, from the beginning, they've been leaders in this, and they developed a employee symptom checker.
That's very good. Thank you. So we'll add that to the list. This is the last question here. And this one says, what people do on their private time or in their private time can affect the health of their colleagues at work. If an employee posts social media photos of them hanging out in large groups at a party or in a neighborhood cookout without masks, can the employer use the picture to admonish or suspend the employee? What should employees and employers know about how we can engage with social media posts in that way?
Oh
boy.
I'm gonna let
How
you
much time we got?
No, we only have like 1 minute, right?
Okay, I love it. 1 minute, real quick. Follow your social media policy that's in your handbook. And managers, if it has come to you and you're friends with someone or someone brings that information to you, given that we're in a pandemic, I think the EEOC is going to lighten up a little bit. I think that can be, it's certainly a cause for a crucial conversation. How much you discipline or whatever. If you see an employee without masks and pictures and it's publicly available information, I think it's worth a serious conversation. And here I'll say this, talk to your HR department, HR consultant, or employment attorney about how to proceed. But I don't think an employer can ignore that information if it's brought to their attention. I know I'd want to know.
Absolutely.
Donna,
My only suggestion would be to use your FFCRA at that point, and because there is a suspicion that they could have been exposed, have them out on leave, being paid through that, and then having them supply a negative test result before they come back to work.
Perfect.
The same goes for family vacations. People are still, they're taking the family on vacations. Employers worry about having employees return after going on a big vacation, testing, temperatures, things like that.
Sounds good. Thank you, ladies. A wealth of information. I know we'll make sure people can find you in the chat. We'll make sure that your information is placed there. Councilman Costello, do you want to come back with anything before I shift to just a couple more things?
Thanks, Shelonda. Amy, Donna, this was so incredibly helpful. I'm going to try to squeeze in some time in between Zooms today to make sure I watch this again. Well, actually not until tomorrow, until it's uploaded. But there's a ton of questions that you all answered today that I've been getting from constituents I represent. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you shedding light on some of these issues for those of us who are not in your line of expertise. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been our pleasure to be with you.
I want to do that. So let me just shift, Councilman. I just wanted to reiterate, I know we've been talking a lot about the census and some things there. So just want to really stress for everybody to make sure that their vote counts. That their household and everybody who's in their count, we need this. Our city needs it in here. And so really want to make sure that people know where to go. If you are unsure, if you visit 2020census.gov as the site, it's in there. We want to make sure that I'll ask the team to also make sure they put that link in the chat for people to click. If we could even get the attendees who are on today to make sure you complete it, share the message, I think that's so important. So please, please, please start by doing the 2020 census. We also have a special recognition that we want to talk about here at Downtown Partnership. One of our team members, Bob Dengler, who literally has been at the partnership for 23 years, is retiring. And when you talk about the impact that he's made to this organization, it's been tremendous. And so we did have an opportunity to celebrate him with our board. We had an opportunity to celebrate him with our team. We will have a small celebration, and we're following, Councilman, we're following the mayor's guidelines. And so we can't do an event that's larger than 25 people. But we really want to make sure that he knows how much he's appreciated and that everybody gets to see the impact that he's made, not only to this organization, but to downtown Baltimore and to the city overall. And so we just want to make sure that if you know Bob, that you send him a note, please. We're also going to do something a little bit special where we'll allow everybody else to have a voice, but did not want to sign off without giving him a note of appreciation. Please know also, I let him know he is not leaving us. So he will still, somehow we will figure out how to keep him connected. He's offered to do that. And so just, we wish him well. Just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to share in that as well. So thank you for that. We're sending Bob off, and just want to remind everybody, you can visit our website, godowntownbaltimore.com. Please, this webinar, a wealth of information will be available within 24 hours. You can also follow our social channels. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So please follow us there. Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Stay tuned.
Bob Dengler looks really young for a guy who's retired twice already.
I know. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Donna.